across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 compelling hours of news, views and dynamic debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. And as long as you keep it clean, I promise to play your message out. That's 0344 499 1000. You're going to want to call about this first story. It is Wednesday, April the 9th. Here's what's coming up. Here we go. Britain's wokest police force. Listen to this, folks. Britain's wokest police force is blocking applications from white Brits who want to be cops. West Yorkshire Police, which spends nearly £1.5 million a year on diversity jobs, including one role that pays a giant salary of £91,000, admits it is giving preferential treatment to candidates from ethnic minorities, and that effectively wannabe cops who are white and British need not apply. The top rozzers who run this right-on constabulary actually seem proud of their divisive and arguably racist recruitment policy. This is the same force that during last summer's ethnic riots in the Hare Hills area of Leeds pulled out for 5 hours and let the mob get on with it. This is about policing this country. This is about keeping the streets safe, keeping people safe, solving crime. Shouldn't they be hiring the best and most able people, regardless of race, creed or colour? Isn't this a kind of self-harming madness? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, after this show broke the disturbing news that Labour was axing the local inquiries into the massive rape gang scandal, I'll talk to a victim and ask her what she thinks about the dreadful Jess Phillips' uncaring attitude in the Commons. Did you see that awful woman in Parliament shuffling around, studiously not giving a damn as her craven cronies slipped in their disgraceful announcement just 45 minutes before the assembled MPs broke up for another of their thoroughly undeserved holidays? 0344 499 1000. In other news, find out all about the lousy Lib Dem Council that cancelled the local 80th anniversary VE Day parade because they decided it's, a drum roll, too elitist. What? No word from that hobby horse riding buffoon, Sir, and I use the term loosely, Sir Ed Davey, on whether it's official Lib Dem policy to forget and disrespect the heroes who laid down their lives for their country. Doesn't this just sum up all that is wrong with modern Britain? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the eco-lunacy that wrecked the MP's pension fund. Now taxpayers are set to have to bail out the Commons crew, us paying their bills yet again. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. Plus, in our two-tier country, welcome to our two-tier approach to religion. The couple of obscure and stupid Labour backbenchers who were quite rightly banned from entering Israel to virtue signal their pro-Palestine views are hailed as heroes. Great to see Keir's crew back in their Corbynista comfort zone, all hating on Israel. Never happier, are they, Labour MPs or Labour people, than when they're hating on Israel. Now Downing Street has admitted that stopping this pair of posers getting to the West Bank was totally legal. Meanwhile, while it seems acceptable to have a go at Israel and the Jews, don't you dare diss Islam. A guy who staged a Quran-burning protest outside the Turkish embassy has been charged with the extraordinary offence of intent to cause distress to the religion of Islam. Isn't that what he meant to do? Why is that a crime? 03444991000. And finally, as Jez just announced, the tariff war is over. The stock market is soaring. All is well with the world. Another triumph for the unstoppable Donald Trump. I'll talk to Fox News star and author Joe Concha. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. And for the first 60 minutes, I'm going to spend that with Talk's fabulous international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. And first, off the bat, I have to thank her for this extraordinary exclusive. I always hesitate to say great exclusive. It's a brilliant story journalistically, but there's nothing great about it. It's shocking. It is shocking. As I said, the most woke police force in Britain is currently blocking all applications from white British people, young British white people who want to be police officers. They're prioritising applications from ethnic communities. They're trying to balance up the colour coordination of that force or something. But I say this is, well, it's certainly divisive, and I say it borders on racism. Let's talk to the provider of this excellent exclusive, Isabel. Welcome to the show, Isabel.
Thank you, Kevin. Some of our listeners may remember a few weeks ago there was quite an outcry when it emerged that West Yorkshire Police was spending well over £1 million on diversity and inclusion jobs. And on the back of that, we were contacted by a source who used to work in the recruitment department at West Yorkshire Police with a whole load of very, very detailed and quite shocking allegations about what is really going on inside that police force as they effectively fall over themselves to prioritise applicants of non-white background. I mean, I would go so far as to say, and this is what our source told us, that West Yorkshire Police are colour coding job applications to the force according to the applicant's skin colour. And this is how far it goes. And forgive me for reading this because, I mean, it's quite astonishing, really. Our source suggests that Black and Far East Asian applicants are given a gold status. So for the colour of their skin, they are gold candidates. Southeast Asian applicants are silver candidates, and white applicants are, you guessed it, bronze candidates. So in other words, at the end of the queue. And in fact, what we are told, and West Yorkshire Police has not denied this, is it's not even that white applicants are at the end of the queue. They don't even get to go into the queue, because how this so-called positive action, that's what West Yorkshire Police calls it, and as you say, they're rather proud of it, how this works is that jobs are only advertised to certain groups for a very long period before white applicants are allowed to apply. Yeah. So effectively, there are all these hidden job vacancies which are only available in advance with plenty of notice to these, let's say, gold and silver applicants, not to us poor bronze white people. We're not really welcome until much later in the stage. Now, West Yorkshire Police are adamant there's nothing illegal about what they're doing. They point out that in that particular part of England, those non-white groups make up 23% of the population of that area. And actually, within the police force, it's only something like
9%. Yeah, 9% of officers are from an ethnic minority.
Because of that gap, they argue that it's justified to do lots of extra work to make it easier and to attract more people from non-white communities. And I would just go on to say that what they're actually doing here, and again, they don't deny this, is West Yorkshire Police are fast-tracking, hand-holding and giving a whole raft of extra special help to candidates from non-white backgrounds. And I think that's unfair. And I think it's wrong. And I think people expect the best candidates to get the job. not candidates who are colour-coded.
Exactly right, I say this is arguably racist. So the situation right now is essentially white people, young white people seeking a career in policing, if they happen to live in the West Yorkshire area, need not apply. You won't be considered. It is quite extraordinary. And one of the most shocking aspects of this, as you suggested, or as you said, Isabel, is that Yorkshire Police are actually proud of this. They call it positive action. I'm going to read out the statement a spokesperson for West Yorkshire Police said. Here we go. The most recent census found that 23% of people in West Yorkshire identified as being from an ethnic minority background. Our current police officer representation from ethnic minority backgrounds is around 9%. To address this underrepresentation, we use positive action under the Equality Act 2010. Our use of this was recently reviewed by His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services in an activism and impartiality inspection, and no issues were identified. Well, I've got a lot of issues to identify here. As I say, you know, they've obviously gone into the details of this Equality Act, and they brought in a policy that is the very epitome of inequality. Whites need not apply. You're not going to get a job if you're British and white right now in West Yorkshire Police. This is outrageous. This is, as I say, this isn't just divisive. This is when wokery spills into outright racism. This is racist.
I agree with you. I think this is racist, I'm afraid. And here's how to look at it. If anyone's finding this difficult, just imagine the tables were turned and black applicants were classified as bronze, you know, the lowest level. And black applicants were told, basically, you know, we've already got plenty enough of you. So actually, we're going to prioritise white people, and we're going to give white people lots of extra time to apply. And we're going to give them extra mentoring, because that's another thing that they do. Again, West Yorkshire Police does not deny that it does this. It does an extra scheme called their Positive Action Scheme to help these applicants from the backgrounds that are specifically targeted do well in the interview. And our source on this provided an awful lot of extremely compelling detail on this, effectively saying time and again, and remember, he was within the recruitment department, he was involved. He said time and again, I witnessed colleagues basically backslapping interviewees who they'd coached themselves and saying to them, not in so many words, don't worry about this. You know, this is just a formality. You've already passed the interview. You've got the same people who are coaching these candidates and fast tracking them doing the interviews. So not surprisingly, no one is failing. And this was another thing that our source highlighted, that basically none of these candidates from black and ethnic minority backgrounds are failing the interview process. They might fail fitness tests and other aspects of it, but they're all basically being nodded through according to him, in his opinion, and what he has seen and what he has been on the inside of. And all of this was put to West Yorkshire Police, and we've read out their statement of defence to it. But I think it is completely perverse.
I think their statement is, as I say, one of the most shocking elements of this. Their pride in it, the fact that they've obviously gone into the minutiae of the Equality Act to see if they can justify what they would describe as positive discrimination, but I would describe as just discrimination. That's what this is. Now, this is the same police force that pays its head of diversity, equality and inclusion £91,536 a year. It has a diversity, equality and inclusion manager, 57,000. 3 diversity, equality and inclusion officers, 45 grand each, and so on and so forth. They're all called things like action progression officer, equality and diversity training. Anyway, it all adds up to, this is what they spent last year on these ludicrous non-crime solving roles, to £1,330,188. So the best part of £500,000 and rising. It is also, as I pointed out, the same police force that when an ethnic riot erupted in Hare Hills, something you know all about because you went up there to interview, shall we say, one of the victims who was wrongly arrested, a white person, of course. The police just pulled out and let the ethnic rioters get on for 5 hours. They completely destroyed the area. For some reason, the police pulled out. So this police force has got some serious questions to answer. But the main overarching question here, Isabel, is whatever police force you're talking about, this is about policing this country. This is about keeping people safe. This is about solving crime, keeping the streets safe. Race, creed or colour should not come into recruitment. It should surely just be the very best applicants for the job, because it's too important to play wokery with, isn't it?
Of course it is. And I would like to see, where is the evidence that fast-tracking, hand-holding and giving special treatment to ethnic minorities so that you've got more of them in your police force, where is the evidence that that actually leads to more crime solving or less crime being committed? If there is that evidence, perhaps there is, then I'd really like to see it. But I strongly suspect that is not the case. And as you say, you've just given an example of it there. It may lead to over-tolerant policing of crimes and bad behaviour by certain communities. I'm afraid that is exactly what we saw in Hare Hills. And you could argue that is exactly what we saw in many other cases where a blind eye has been turned by police officers. Just look at what happened with the Pakistani grooming gangs. Where is the evidence that balancing policing by colour actually makes Britain a safer place and a better place to be?
This, representing the community that you serve, police officers, it goes into the fire brigade as well. I mean, particularly over in America, in Los Angeles, they've got this policy that the local fire brigades, Los Angeles Fire Brigade, which of course has been proved to be somewhat wanting in recent months, they have a policy that you have to recruit firefighters who represent the local community. So it's the same thing here. We have it at fire brigades as well. So, what the hell, like imagine your house is on fire and the fire brigade turn up, fire engine turns up, and you go, hey, wait a minute, you've only got 2 firefighters of colour. That is not representative of the racial setup in this area. I mean, it's just mad. It is mad. This is the woke virus, turning this nation into a very sick country indeed.
Completely mad. I'm just saying, home for me, real home is in the Cotswolds. And if my house was burgled or, one of my family was mugged or something like that, and, the area I live in the Cotswolds is very white, really, although it is changing a bit. If a black police officer turned up at the door, I'd only be damn grateful that any police officer was turning up at the door.
There is that,
I'd be thinking to myself, damn, this police officer is not representative of the nice white Cotswold village that I live in. Come on.
I'm afraid that these police chiefs, they're particularly woke in West Yorkshire, but all over the country, chief constables are the same. They are disappearing up their woke backsides and forgetting what their job is. The job is to fight crime and keep the streets safe. And they are obsessing on this nonsense, this racist, divisive nonsense. Thank you for bringing this story to us. It's an important story. And let me ask the audience what they think. Let me know what you think about this racism that seems to be thriving in West Yorkshire Police. That if you're white, you can't get a job as a police officer. If you're white and British, they don't want to know. You need not apply. They only want applications from ethnic people. Nothing against them, but surely everybody should be able to apply. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Next up, we're going to cover another story that I think we'll all find very infuriating. The lousy Lib Dem council that cancelled the 80th anniversary VE Day parade in their local area. Again, what is happening in this country? That next, stay tuned.
He and Meghan basically felt that they were singled out for inferior treatment, and they had to step back as working royals.
Well, I think what his barrister has said is complete and utter poppycock. To be perfectly honest, look, Harry was the one who made the decision that he wanted to go and live in America and make his own money. Yep. Absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever. Yep. Whatever's happened under the bridge and everything else, whatever. He cannot expect to have a gun bodyguard on standby just in case he decides to turn up here again.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor. Just quickly before we move on to this awful story about the Lib Dems cancelling this VE Day parade, Isabel. Mark has sent me a message. It's interesting about your brilliant story about West Yorkshire Police. He says the legal definition of discrimination is, and he puts it in quotes, treating someone less favourably than others because of a protected characteristic such as race, sex, religion or disability. Mark goes on to say, it seems to me West Yorkshire Police are breaking the law here. I think he's got a point. I think they maybe
West Yorkshire Police are very sure they're not breaking the law, but I think that is a matter of debate. And it was, I think, I've written about this in detail for the Telegraph tomorrow. There are a number of experts that have contributed to my research on this, and it's acknowledged that much of this is a bit of a grey area. I mean, we seem to be using a lot of colours here: black, white, grey, bronze, whatever. But I think the law could be perhaps do with being tested on this. What we need is a white applicant to West Yorkshire Police who feels that they were given much of a disadvantage, and that would hardly be surprising if, for example, they only get 2 days' notice of a job opening, which is what our sources are saying, and West Yorkshire Police are not denying, whereas applicants of all other non-white colours get weeks or months on end to prepare their documents.
It discriminates against white applicants. It's as simple as that. That cannot be legal. But we'll leave that, and certainly keep your calls coming in, folks. I've got lots. Send me your messages, your WhatsApp voice notes. We need to talk about this. We also need to talk about this, Isabel. Been doing the rounds all day, but nevertheless still infuriating. The Lib Dem Council in an area called Dacorum Borough Council, that's in Hertfordshire, have cancelled or rejected the 80th anniversary VE Day parade on the grounds that it's, and I quote, too elitist. I wrote to myself, really, do these councillors, do these Lib Dems have any idea how bovine that decision is? It's exactly what's wrong with this country, full of know-nothing, horrendous idiots. I also put out on Twitter, is this official Lib Dem policy that we disrespect and forget the heroes who laid down their lives for this country? Before we get on to Sir, it's all got to be that with Ed Davey, Sir Ed Davey, the leader of that lousy, ludicrous party. This is what the Lib Dem leader councillor in Dacorum, Caroline Smith-Wright, said to justify this disgusting decision. We have decided at this point to enable communities to come together and have street parties, and I think that is for the communities. That is for everyone. That encompasses everybody. It doesn't just leave the elite and people to just kind of parade. What a load of gormless garbage. I mean, hasn't she got any soul? And people who laid down their lives for this country, put their lives at risk for this country, served their country, and this is what these people do. They just want to forget them. It's just outrageous, don't you think?
It's just so feeble, isn't it? It's such base level thinking. Why? I've not heard any explanation as to why it's elite to be part of a parade. You know, the parades that I see are full of people of all different backgrounds, you know, including children, cadets, people from the Scouts, that kind of thing. I mean, it's not exactly elitist, is it, just to be on a parade? I mean, I don't get this. I mean, is the Notting Hill Carnival elitist because people are parading? Or is that not elitist? I don't get it.
My bet is, I don't know this, Caroline Smith-Wright, I bet she's about sort of 45, maybe a bit younger. No sense of history. Probably went to a state school, so never got taught any decent history. And they just don't understand. They don't understand about the Second World War. They don't understand about the great conflicts that this country endured and suffered. They don't get it. And that is a massive failure of our education system. I may be doing Ms. Smith-Wright wrong here. Perhaps she's got a history degree and she knows all about it. If she does know all about it, if she does understand the sacrifices made by this nation, and particularly by the military heroes during both wars, but certainly the Second World War, if she does understand that, then she should hang her head in shame about this decision to cancel the VE Day parade. It's the 80th celebration. Now, you should remember the 75th anniversary VE Day parades all over the country had to be shelved, had to be called off because of COVID. So this is all the more important because it may well be one of the very last VE Day parades that features some of the men, the brave men who fought in the Second World War. So it's very, very important. But here's the thing. I was listening to Julia Hartley-Brewer's show this morning, and literally she was in the middle of interviewing a military man who was registering his disgust. He made the point, by the way, very good point. He said, when they talk about elitism, the elites, he said, they should think about the Nazis. They should think about Nazi Germany and their definition of who was elite, the Aryan race. You know, so they should not really get into this area. However, as this guy was talking, its news suddenly came through that Decorum Council has changed its mind and will now stage a VE Day parade. I suspect that Mr. Davey might have been in touch, don't you?
Well, I mean, maybe I suspect you might be applying a little bit too much kind of political strategy to Mr. Davies, Sir Ed Davies operations. Last time I saw him making any news at all, he was gallivanting
on a
around.
hobby horse. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with him?
I don't know. I honestly, I laughed so much it hurt. But a bit of me, inside, a bit of me was crying because that guy leads a significant political party. We might not like what it stands for, but it's a significant political party. And there he was, trotting around like he's in some kind of nursery school sports day. It's embarrassing.
It really is. And too many people in Westminster go, oh, you know, he gets the party noticed, he gets it talked about, he makes the papers. You know, OK, fine. But do you think that's a good thing? Oh, he's made the papers. Everyone's laughing at him because he's an idiot, because he's riding a hobby horse or he's in a canoe falling out of it and all that. I mean, this guy is just, he's a joke. But I do suspect that he might have felt that perhaps a Lib Dem council cancelling the 80th anniversary VE Day parade was not a good look for his party. But maybe you're right, maybe they did it on their own volition. But either way, they did at least get the memo in the end. But the story here, how can people ever have come to this decision in the first place? What is happening to this country? Where is the respect? Come on, everybody. This is an outrage. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. And we're on a roll of outrage right now, Isabel. When we come back, we're going to talk about Labour's.
And on your side, this is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Now, Isabel, before we discuss this, this broke actually just as we were coming on air last night, and with an increasing sense of disbelief, we had to report, or I had to report, that Labour, disgracefully in my view, was playing politics with the rape gang scandal, slipping in quietly just in 45 minutes before Parliament went into recess, just quietly. Slipping in, by the way, those local rape gang inquiries we promised you, we're axing them. We're not going to do it. This was, don't forget, this was after January when the entire nation was demanding a national public inquiry into the worst sex scandal this nation has ever seen. Now, we're talking about these rape gangs, predominantly Muslim men of Pakistani origin, raped, groomed, drugged as many as 250,000 vulnerable young white girls. And let's not beat about the bush. There was a racial element to this. They enjoyed treating these white girls like animals. And you wouldn't want to read out the details, but treat them like animals. They most certainly did. It's the most horrific stuff I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a few things. But let's, before we talk about this, Katie Lamb, the Shadow Home Office Minister, stood up to object to what Labour had done. We need to listen to her speech because it's very powerful and lays out, I think, what the nation is feeling. But we also need to look at that tireless campaigner for women's safety and women's rights, Jess Phillips, the Labour MP, as Katie speaks. So let's watch this.
The girls we are talking about, Mr. Speaker, are predominantly white. The men who preyed on them were predominantly Muslim, generally either from Pakistan or of Pakistani heritage. One of the victims from Dewsbury was told by her rapist, I quote, "We're here to all the white girls and the government." Will the Minister accept that, in many cases, these crimes were racially and religiously aggravated? How, without a national inquiry, can we understand what part these factors played?
So during that very powerful speech, and summed it up very, very well, I think, summed up the horror of it very well. Here's to Katie Lamb. But during that speech, a sort of opposite number, Jess Phillips, who hitherto had quite a reputation for fighting for women's safety and for women's rights, was doing that thing that politicians do. That studious, bored, shuffling around, you know, the way they always do it. And people are furious with her. And I just think that here's a woman who's just ruined her reputation. She got into government and now she's playing governmental games. So shame on her and shame on Labour for calling off these inquiries. Bearing in mind, we have too many. Way too many public inquiries, but in this instance, the nation deserved it. Labour already called that off, but they did give us the SAP. We'll have £5 million worth of 5 local inquiries. Yesterday they called those off as well, and here's why they did it. Because they're terrified of offending the Muslim community, of upsetting the Islamic community, because they need the Muslim vote. This is just revolting, I think.
Absolutely revolting. And Jess Phillips's reputation as a great champion of victims of sexual violence, sexual abuse, domestic abuse has taken a massive, probably irreversible knock. I'm sure she didn't want to have to announce this. I'm sure behind the scenes she tried very hard to come up with something. But the bottom line is, having failed to do that, I think the only honourable thing she could have done and should have done, absolutely should have done, is on a point of principle resigned from her job. And I think that would have been a very, very powerful thing. The government would not have wanted it. And had she threatened it, then I think they would have had to come up with some solution, i.e. ideally honouring doing what they said they were going to do, which is have these inquiries in the first place. Many people were not happy about the idea of the smaller inquiries. I was open-minded about it. You know, all anyone wants is to get to the truth and ensure that it isn't still happening. Not just that it can't ever happen again, but that it isn't still happening, because I'm afraid there's quite a lot of evidence from those who know about this that this is ongoing. This isn't some very historic thing. There are still people committing these appalling crimes against innocent young girls, and it's got to stop.
Absolutely. I mean, the consensus is it definitely is still going on, and the unsatisfactory nature of the 5 local inquiries, which, as I say, were offered to the nation as a SAP, because Labour was terrified of a full public inquiry, because that would be an ongoing upsetting spectacle for the Muslim community. So they offered us this SAP of the 5 locals. That was nowhere near enough, because 5 local inquiries, that's 5 local areas. This was going on all over the country, over the country. So it was nowhere near enough. But as you say, Isabel, at least it was something. And yesterday they called that off. Now this Labour's craven terror of upsetting the Islamic community, its craven lusting after the Muslim vote, is really turning into a problem. You know, the other day you should have seen Keir Starmer and the gang celebrating Eid at number 10 Downing Street. I mean, it was just a weird spectacle. They couldn't do enough. Oh, look at us, Eid, look, isn't it marvellous? I'll tell you what, I bet you they don't have a similar celebration for Easter. Am I right?
Oh, I'm sure you're right. And unfortunately, he forgot Mother's Day, which is quite important in our culture. It's not a big religious festival, obviously. It's not religious at all. But it was a really nice moment for people to come together and, you know, to celebrate the traditional family and the role of mothers. And he just didn't bother with that, did he? Of course, neither you nor I, Kev, have any problem with celebrations of Eid. I mean, I'm reporting here. I'm in the Middle East at the moment, and I tell you what, they're very good at marking Christmas. The problem we've got in Britain is that we're not marking the traditional Christian things as well as we're marking things that are from different cultures. It's got out of all balance, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And so we're living in a country now where the Prime Minister turns number 10 Downing Street effectively into a mosque to celebrate Eid. We've got a primary school, a state school down in Hampshire, cancelling Easter so that they can have Refugee Week instead. No Easter bonnet parade, no Christian services in case they offend the local Muslim community, and so on and so forth. And a government that just bends over backwards all the time in terror that it might offend the Muslim community and therefore lose the Muslim vote that it so desperately will need at the next election. I still don't think it'll be enough for them, but that's what's going on here. Two-tier doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yeah, plenty of tears from the rest of us. I would say that opposition parties have got to club together to make sure that those who are responsible for this, and that includes Jess Phillips, lose their seats at the first opportunity. And you know what, we could have a whole other discussion sometime about Refugee Week in schools. I tell you, if any of my kids were at a school where they held Refugee Week, I'd be withdrawing them from that school. That is a politicisation of children, and we all know it's a politicisation on the left, and it's completely and utterly wrong.
Yeah, you know that, just briefly on that school, it's called Norwood Primary School. It's in the very nice sort of rural town of Eastleigh, down near Southampton. Eastleigh has got 136,000 residents. Just 1,300 of them are Muslims. Good luck to them and everything. But because of those 1,300 Muslims, the teacher of a Christian state school, for that is our national religion. It's not a matter of debate. That's official. This is not a secular country. She took it upon herself to cancel Christianity in case she offended the 1,300 Muslims. Now, and by the way, I don't want to offend those Muslims either. I'm just saying that people like her, people like Keir Starmer, people who are bending over backwards going, oh my God, don't call me Islamophobic. They are twisting this country, they're perverting this country and turning it into a basket case. And that is exactly what is going on with the Labour Party constantly. A terror of offending the Muslim community at the expense of the rest of us. And it's got to stop, as you quite rightly say. Let's change tack after the next break, Isabel, and talk about the King. The King is a bit of a green nut as well, eco nut. Well, he's been told to wind his neck in because the tide is changing. So we'll talk about that after this break.
Harry and Meghan basically felt that they were singled out for inferior treatment, and they had to step back as working royals.
Well, I think what his barrister has said is complete and utter poppycock. To be perfectly honest, look, Harry was the one who made the decision that he wanted to go and live in America and make his own money. Absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever. Whatever's happened under the bridge and everything else, whatever. He cannot expect to have a gun bodyguard on standby just in case he decides to turn up here again.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
After the 8 o'clock news, we're going back to the rape gang scandal. We're going to be talking to a survivor of one of the Rotherham gangs. She's a victim called Elizabeth. And we'll find out what she thinks about what Labour did yesterday. Also, I want to ask you, while we're still on the topic, now, Jess Phillips, who backed Labour's shelving of the local inquiries into the rape gang scandal, she is a minister for safeguarding and violence against women and girls. Due to her uncaring, nonchalant attitude, shuffling around, bored, has this finished yet yesterday? And due to the fact that her party has just done something that goes against everything she has ever stood for, should she resign? Should Jess Phillips resign? 0344499 1000. As I say, we'll be talking to a victim of the Rotherham rape gang after the 8 o'clock news. For the time being, though, Isabel, let's talk about the King. He's gone off on his state visit to Italy with Camilla. Don't think he could wait. He got on a plane pretty sharpish. I think he heard that Harry was flying into London. Goes, hey, Camilla, let's get out of here. Quick, quick. Ginger Nuts is coming. So old Harry is continuing his stupid, fatuous lawsuit demanding armed cop guards when he comes to Britain. Who cares whether he gets it or not? But it means a lot to him, apparently. But he's been in court. But anyway, the word on King Charles is that advisors, courtiers, who have been talking to politicians have told the King, when it comes to your green zealotry, your net zero nuttiness, Your Majesty, you better wind your neck in. The tide is changing here, and we cannot have you carrying on like this. So apparently the King has reluctantly agreed to tone down his greenery. And while he's at it, I hope William will do the same. Why did we ever allow these two royals, the King and his son, Prince William, the Prince of Wales, to become so overtly political about the issue of climate change? I mean, they're supposed to be neutral, and yet when it comes to net zero and climate change, both of them might as well join the Green Party. It's outrageous, don't you think?
Well, I'm going to give a different point of view here, which is that the King actually was one of the very earliest to bang on about this stuff.
So it's his fault. It's his fault, is it?
Well, when he started out on this theme, it was much more with a kind of conservation angle. You know, he was pretty much a pioneer on organic farming. You know, he led the way on that well before it was fashionable. And I think some aspects of what he was pushing for at the time, and we're talking 15, 20 years ago, perhaps even more, were actually pretty forward thinking. And this was all about, you know, basically making our countryside a nicer and less chemical laden place. And I can get on board with that. You know, it's not, I think we can all agree it's much nicer to have small mixed farms and a green and pleasant countryside than it is to have the opposite of that. So I don't really have a problem with that. But as you say, if it veers into net zero is a political campaign, then they shouldn't be having anything to do with that. And actually, you've got to hand it to their advisors that they are reading the room at this point. I mean, perhaps should have read the room a bit of a while ago, but public mood is changing on this pretty fast, I think.
Well, the incident or the thing that has changed the dial, apparently, was Kemi Badenoch's sort of U-turn speech saying, well, actually, we're going to row back on net zero. We think it's too expensive. We don't think it's achievable. So the Tories, they haven't quite had the guts to actually say, let's abandon all this green claptrap that is costing the poor people of this country a fortune. But they haven't quite had the guts to do that. But effectively, they've certainly dialed down their views on net zero. It was that, and of course reform, and even Labour beginning to row back. Even Keir Starmer is beginning to see that crazy Ed Miliband is going to be his passport to oblivion, that Labour can't go. So the way that the political direction, the direction of travel, is moving away from net zero, and that is why apparently the King has been told, listen, you've got to get with the programme. You cannot carry on with your overt noisy greenery. And while we're at it, let's hope that Prince William doesn't either. I mean, you know, they're entitled to their views. I mean, I don't agree with either of them, actually. But, you know, there is a tradition about the British royalty, and we can't have the King, and indeed the heir to the throne, going round effectively waving a banner for the Green Party or the Lib Dems. That's basically what they're doing, or for that matter, Ed Miliband. It can't carry on.
I mean, I'm not actually convinced that they'll fully stop, and particularly not the King, who I keep still wanting to call Prince Charles, because that's what he'll always...
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's what most of us still think of him as.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just so steeped in this stuff. You know, I remember many years ago when I was writing a book on the state of farming, I actually visited Highgrove and looked at some of his farm there and some of what he's doing. And I remember seeing him, spotting him while I was doing this tour, creating this amazing, you know, hand woven fences. You know, he's really good.
Oh yeah, that thing that they do in the country. I know that.
Yeah, what do you call it? I don't know.
I've never been to the country. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, who knows? But anyway, you know, my point is that he is absolutely a kind of man of the earth.
No, I'm not doubting his sincerity or William's sincerity. I'm just saying that you know, in a democratic country, their political opinions shouldn't be so public, because their greenery, their net zero stance is political.
Yeah, and it's not ideal, is it? But at least they've got really good advice, unlike so many others in public life, and perhaps they will wind their necks in. I just think Charles can't really help himself on this stuff.
Last word from you about Harry's case. What do you make of it? I mean, this is about his 58th time of appealing against the quite correct decision, in my view, that as a non-working royal, non-frontline royal, he no longer warrants armed police protection, automatic armed police protection. The only thing he's wasting millions of his own money on is he wants the same status as his brother. He wants automatic police gun with guns, armed cops, every time he comes to the country, either on his own or with his family. He wants it to be automatic. What the police or what the government is saying is, look, just apply to us. Let us know you're coming, and if we feel the circumstances are right, we'll give you armed police protection. But if we don't, we won't. You don't warrant automatic armed police protection. That's not good enough for him. And he's spending millions.
Not for him.
And the judge keeps saying, listen, mate, it's a lost cause. The government's barrister, the Home Office barrister, said this is a case, a failure, a continuing failure to see the wood for the trees. What is he doing?
I mean, it's just so vainglorious, isn't it? I mean, does anyone really? Of course, you know, all people in public positions are targets for nutters and you know, awful potential attackers. But really, is Harry really such a tremendous terror target? Look at the leader of the Reform Party, Nigel Farage. He gets death threats every day, and they're really quite serious. Some of them. Does he have automatic armed protection? Of course he doesn't. Very rarely. I don't think he ever has any armed protection. I don't know about that, but I don't think he does. I would argue that he is a much greater target for nut than Prince Harry, who, if he put a cap on and put his collar up, probably no one would notice if he floated around.
I'll tell you what, Isabel, if Meghan carries on blotting him out of the picture quite like this, no one's going to recognise him in the future. But it is. I felt sorry for him sitting in that court yesterday. I thought, what on earth are you doing? What are you doing? By the way, prisons. They're all overcrowded, so we're looking for new and interesting forms of punishment. I know what to punish people with for serious crimes. Make them listen to Meghan's new podcast.
Have you done it?
Yeah, I have. Let me tell you, that'll teach them a lesson. They'll never repeat crime. Isabel, fantastic. Great story. Thank you very much. We'll talk again tomorrow night. Isabel Oakeshott talks, brilliant international editor. When we come back, as I say, we'll be talking to one of the victims of the Rotherham rape gang. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Welcome back. This is hour 2 of tonight's Political Asylum. In the 20 minutes or so, we'll be talking about the MP's pension fund. It's been wrecked by stupid investments into green businesses that have all gone bankrupt. So that means the MP's pension fund has apparently plummeted by 25%, so it's going to have to be made up. It's going to have to be bailed out. And guess who will be bailing it out? Us. Taxpayers. That's right. So once again, us, the public, the people, bailing out that lot in the House of Commons. That's good, isn't it? More net zero madness, of course. Taking your calls in half an hour. Lots to talk about tonight. 0344 499 1000. And around about 8:45, we're going to be talking about a guy who's been charged with intent to cause distress to Islam for setting fire to the Quran. Well, that should not be an offence in this country. What's going on there? Are we bringing back the blasphemy laws or something? 03444991000. So a busy hour ahead. Now, though, right away, let's get back to a very, very serious story. We've been talking, of course, about Labour's outrageous decision to deprive the nation of any inquiries whatsoever into the worst mass sexual scandal in this country's history ever. 250,000 vulnerable young white girls, as many as that are thought to have been victimised by these gangs, these grooming gangs of predominantly, obviously, male Pakistani origin Muslims. Yesterday, Labour cancelled. They didn't give us a national public inquiry, which we demanded and I think we deserved. But they said, oh, we'll give you 5 locals. Will that do you? Well, not really, but we'll take it. Should have been a lot more than that. Anyway, they cancelled them yesterday. So I believe this is a betrayal, particularly of the poor victims. It's also a betrayal of the entire nation. We deserve an inquiry into this. We deserve to know exactly what went wrong here, because something very, very bad went wrong. Very, very bad indeed. Now we're going to talk to a victim of the grooming gang in Rotherham. Her name is Elizabeth. She's written a book and she's agreed to come on and tell us her story. Obviously, we're not going to identify her or show you her face, but it's very good of her and very brave of her to come on the show. So welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Hi, you all right?
I'm okay. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, before we get into your story, tell us what you feel about what happened yesterday, that Labour called off any inquiries whatsoever into what happened to you and to as many as 250,000 other young white girls like you. What do you feel that will now be no inquiries whatsoever into what went wrong?
I think it wasn't good enough in January when they come up with these 5 inquiries anyway. I think survivors across the country, from towns and cities, from the towns and cities that they come from, and they haven't had any inquiries. I'm from a town that has had inquiries, and I think to get the survivors up that they might find justice and truth within their towns or cities, and then to be let down like they were yesterday, I think it's not just morally wrong, it's quite cruel.
Yeah, that's a good point, Elizabeth. I mean, you're right. I mean, when Labour said, because we were all demanding, I mean, for the sake of you and for the sake of all the other victims and for the sake of a furious nation, we were all demanding in January, look, you owe us a national public inquiry into this. And they said, oh, no. I'll tell you what, how about 5 local inquiries? As you say, Elizabeth, that was nowhere near good enough, because actually this was going on all over the country, not just in 5 local areas. So that wasn't good enough, but at least it was something. So yesterday, when they called it off, you felt that was just a very cruel decision.
It was, yeah. We've spent years and years wanting justice, truth, and just to be recognised of what we were, victims, and victims of an absolutely heinous crime. And we never, ever seem to get the recognition of what we've been through and the level of what we've been through. The public still don't know what we've been through, the extent we've been through, And another thing that isn't put across is actually what is child sexual exploitation. It's not just within one town or one city. It networks across the country, and that's why it's important that we should have a national inquiry to join them dots up, get proper data, get proper statistics, because it's not just about historical victims and historical survivors. This is about protecting our children now, and until we know the key factors of what the motives are, how it's happening, where the failings are, how are we going to protect our future children? We're going to end up with 250,000 more victims. How's that right?
Yeah. You see, the thing is, Elizabeth, you've written a book. It's called Snatched, Trapped by a Woman to be Sold to Men. We'll go into your story in just a little while, because unusually you were groomed by a woman who then effectively sold you to men, to the Rotherham gang. But you know, you're a brave and intelligent girl. You've written a book. You sued your tormentors, and you secured a £425,000 settlement. So you are an able, intelligent, brave, courageous girl. But many, many, many more of the victims are not as talented as you, if I can put it that way. And they are the people who really, really deserve an inquiry, because not many people will write a book, not many people will sue. So do you see what I'm getting at?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been ever so lucky in my journey through my campaigning, that I've had a good network of people. I've been given opportunities that many wouldn't. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But there's things that I do is to open them floodgates for those that haven't got a voice. I've always prided my campaigning and my advocacy to give those voiceless a voice. But that shouldn't be left down to people like me. But it's the government and the police and things like that what should be giving them victims a voice.
Absolutely.
They're not.
What did you think yesterday? As I say, we're going to get onto your story in just a second. What did you think about Jess Phillips yesterday? I don't know if you saw that little interlude in Parliament where the Tory lady was making quite an impassioned speech about this scandal and why there should be an inquiry. And Jess Phillips, who's supposed to be, well, is the Labour Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls, just sort of sat there shuffling, looking bored. What did you think about her? How does she safeguard violence against women and girls by backing a decision not to have an inquiry into what happened to 250,000 young girls?
She's chose politics over what's right. I've said that from when she voted down for the national inquiry. You can't advocate for women and children and then act like that. I saw it myself. One of the examples gave in Katie Lamb's speech were actually my dad's. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And for her to sit there and look bored, it just says a very lot. And I think the reason why a lot of them are not standing up and speaking like Katie Lamb did yesterday is because, one, it's uncomfortable and they don't want to hear it, and number two, it's political death.
Yeah, it's politics. You're right. She prioritised politics over, I would say, human decency. Can we just get to your story? Obviously, you won't want to go into all the details, but you've written a book about it. Now, you got groomed unusually by a woman who lured you in. Her name was Shafina Ali. She was involved with the Rotherham paedophile ring. She plied you with alcohol and drugs. Tell us your story. How did it happen?
So basically, my story starts off from starting secondary school. Because I'm quite academically bright, I didn't quite fit in. So I suffered from bullying, and then what had happened is I started twinning, and this woman were on the street. Unknown to me, there was high intelligence around this woman about the antics that she got up to. She lured me into her flat, saying that her daughter was in there suffering from the same things as myself. I came from a very, very good background. I'm not your what people think is a stereotypical grooming.
Yeah.
I wasn't a care child. I came from a loving family, and I was truanting, going home, going back to the flat when I should have been in school. And one day when I went, that other girl wasn't there. Unknown to me, because I was quite naive, I fell into this vicious cycle, and I was kept in the flat for 10 weeks.
But by men? 10 weeks?
Yeah,
10 weeks?
10 weeks, yeah. During that time, My mum and dad were ringing everybody for help, South Yorkshire Police over 200 times around that period of time. The only adult that were held responsible for my abuse wasn't the abusers, it was my dad. He was arrested twice.
Really?
So the only ones that were held accountable at that time was my dad for trying to get me out.
Elizabeth, I don't want to, you can say whatever you're comfortable with, but you were systematically sexually abused during those 10 weeks?
I absolutely were, yeah.
How were you feeling then?
You know, I was isolated. Like I say, I go back to I had a really good childhood and everything like that. And then to go from that to that, I was isolated. I had no one around me. I was just reliant on the perpetrators.
And how did you eventually sort of get out of that situation?
I got referred to somewhere called Risky Business Project, what was a youth project in Rotherham, helping children just like myself. And it was actually my risky business worker. I always say to her, I have to, people said that angels walk amongst us, and she was definitely mine. She was the one that, alongside my parents, actually kept me alive.
Now, you were 15 at the time, and when you eventually got to tell your story, I mean, your parents must have been distraught. How did you tell it to the police? What did the police do?
Basically, the police just ignored it because the intelligence around the property that I was in was actually the woman who, Shafina. She was already known to the services in 1999. My abuse was in 2003, and she was known in 1999 to have she'd set up like a fake rape crisis helpline to lure young girls into exploitation, and South Yorkshire Police actually shut that down. Rotherham Borough Council gave her a contract to pick young children up from school. She went by 9 different aliases. The list continues. She was known to hang around anywhere where young children or young people hung around, sexual health clinics, parks, outside schools. They knew all of it. They chose to ignore it. They stayed silent.
So your teachers, the police, local councillors, nobody helped you. Nobody would help you. Go on. Sorry.
I was classed as a bad behaved child that made informed choices about where I wanted to be. I made that lifestyle choice. So by making that choice as a child, making adult decisions as a child, I was literally, basically, making that decision to be put in, and I deserved it. And that's what it says all the way through my files. I made that choice.
Dear. And your tormentors, this woman Shafina Ali, and the guys who sort of basically held you for 10 weeks, did they get nicked in the end? Did they get arrested? Did they get prosecuted?
So when the Alexis J report came out, I came forward, and I ended up with the National Crime Agency. It was found out that Shafina had died in 2009.
Good.
One of the abusers was sentenced in 2018, so that had been like 15 years since it had happened. He was sentenced.
What? Just one of them? Just one of them?
Just one of them, yeah.
Do you ever, Elizabeth, do you ever see any of these guys around Rotherham, around your local area?
Yeah, we're living on top of each other all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I live on the outskirts, but if you go into Rotherham Town Centre, you're all over each other. And because it's been normalised that much throughout the years, everybody just gets about the business. It's really strange.
So you when you go into town, you regularly bump into the guys who sexually abused you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Thanks so much for talking to us, Elizabeth. I think it's important stuff, this. How are you now? How are you now? How is your life?
So I've got really bad trauma, obviously. But, I'm just getting on with campaigning. I'm just involved with a group that's just set up for the children. So that's a campaign group that will be going around the country raising awareness and obviously demanding a national inquiry as well. We need a national inquiry.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly back you on that one, but it doesn't look like Labour are going to help you out. So what about your personal life? Do you have a romance? Is there a guy in your life, or is that not really worked out?
No, it's not. It's not for me, that.
Well, because of what happened to you.
Yeah.
So this is how you got damaged. I mean, what a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Elizabeth, thank you so much for talking to us, and we'll keep in touch because we're going to call here at Talk for a national inquiry, a public inquiry, because I think you deserve it, all the other victims deserve it, and the nation deserve it. So, Elizabeth, you're a brave woman. Thank you very much for talking to us. Next up, we're going to be talking about the MP's pension fund. Stick around.
He and Meghan basically felt that they were singled out for inferior treatment, and they had to step back as working royals.
Well, I think what his barrister has said is complete and utter poppycock, to be perfectly honest. Look, Harry was the one who made the decision that he wanted to go and live in America and make his own money. Yep. Absolutely fine. No problems whatsoever.
Yep.
Whatever's happened under the bridge and everything else, whatever. He cannot expect to have a gun bodyguard on standby just in case he decides to turn up here again.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to be taking your calls. Lots to talk about. What do you think about West Yorkshire Police? If you're white and you're British, you can't be a copper there. Don't even bother replying because they're only interviewing ethnic communities, members of the people of colour, ethnic minorities. No white people, no British people. So no British white people. So what do you think about that? Is that racist? Certainly divisive, isn't it? I'd say racist. What do you think? 03444991000. Let me know what you think about the Lib Dem Council that cancelled the 80th anniversary VE Day parade. Keep it clean. I know what I think about them, but that's not broadcastable on a family show. And the rape gang scandal, the very brave young lady that we just spoke to, Elizabeth, you heard her harrowing story. That's just one story out of potentially 250,000. One story out of an estimated 250,000 girls have got stories like Elizabeth, picked up from school, lured into drinking by this evil woman. Woman handed her over to the Rotherham rape gang, where she was systematically sexually abused, kept prisoner effectively for 10 weeks of sexual torture. There are 249,999 other girls like Elizabeth. And Labour has called off any inquiries whatsoever into the worst sexual scandal this nation has ever known. What kind of a government are they? What kind of people are they? Playing politics with this, terrified of offending the Muslim community. This isn't a question of politics. This isn't a question of offending the Muslim community or anybody. This is a question of common decency. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Now, let's get back to, shall we say, a more normal story, but another everyday story of net zero madness. But it does involve our MPs. Well, let's go straight over to the excellent environment editor of the the Daily Skeptic. Are you the environment editor, Chris Morrison, of course? Are you the environment or the climate change editor? I'm not sure.
I'm the environment editor. We've now got all sorts of people, energy and all sorts of things, but I'm the environment editor.
Okay. Now, this is an interesting story. It's rather annoying. The MPs, our MPs, have a pension fund. So even if you're only there for one term, you warrant a pension, a parliamentary pension for the rest of your life. You do 2 or 3, or you do 20 years or something, it's a very, very generous pension. So they've got a big pension pot. There's £862 million in it. Anyway, the people who invest in this pension pot, the pension maintainers, managers, if you like, have been investing their backsides off into all sorts of green companies because, of course, being parliamentary, they want to be ethical and green, net zero-ish. So they have lost 25% of the pension pot by investing in companies. A couple of them went completely bankrupt, windmill companies or whatever. And therefore, it looks as if the public, you, me, British taxpayers, are going to have to bail our representatives out. So we're going to have to make up the shortfall here. But this is another example of kind of green madness, isn't it? This kind of green net zero virus that is turning previously sort of sentient, intelligent people into lunatics who just do things that don't make any sense. So they've invested all this money into companies purely because they're green, and they've lost all the money. It's another one right out of the Ed Miliband handbook, isn't it?
It did indeed. I'd pick you up on one thing. You said that investing in windmills is ethical. I don't think it's ethical at all. If you see the huge toll it takes on wildlife, the bats and the eagles and the insects and everything else that's killed by these damn things. And
I'm not saying ethical, Chris.
No, I'm
saying they are.
Let's make it clear that these are not ethical investments. These are, they're stupid investments. In fact, when your researcher phoned me, I looked at what I wrote last September in Daily Skeptic, and I'll just read you the headline of a story I wrote in it, and it goes, if you want an investment portfolio full of dog stocks, try filling them with renewables and green punts. And this is what's happened here.
Yes.
And apologies to dogs, by the way. I know you're a dog lover, along with
I am, yes.
As indeed am I. But I'm afraid this is a technical term that real bow wows some of these stocks. But we based the story on, or started it with, a thing called the Renewable Energy Industrial Index, which has been going, RENX it's called. We've been going since 2006. and it is an index of 30 of the largest energy companies. It includes all sorts of big companies, include Tesla, in fact, car companies, battery, windmills. And since 2006, this index has shown no growth at all, none. And when you think of the, the big, we're not seeing it at the moment, of course, but the big increases in the stock markets around the world in that period, it's been a boom time for stocks. They've shown net zero growth. But it's worse than that. They actually showed a bit of growth, partly because they've got Tesla, and Tesla has gone up thousands of percent. So God knows what some of the others are doing. They did actually go up since 2021. It's lost half its value. Half its value has gone in the last 3 or 4 years. And that explains what's happened, I guess, to the MP's pension fund. They've gone down the route of investing in all of these wind farms and solar farms. And I think it was Richard Tice who brought it up, first of all. He looked at it, and I think they're looking at a big shortfall. And there would have been an even bigger shortfall, of course, because all the usual stocks, if you like, non-ESG stocks have all done quite badly in the last week, as we know. So that wouldn't have helped the pension fund. Wherever you look in the world, I looked in the article, in the United States, 31 electric vehicle companies came to market from 2020 on the various indexes. Almost all of them, in fact, there was only one when I wrote about this last September, it was a Chinese electric vehicle company, had actually risen in price. The rest were underwater, and most of them around 90-95%. 6 of the companies had already gone bankrupt. And we look at these battery storages. Whenever you look at these companies, they just don't last. They rely heavily on subsidies. They're there most of them are there to collect subsidies, of course. They're there because we've invented this climate emergency, and their second-rate solution for a problem that doesn't actually exist. What MPs have no doubt done is they filled their portfolio with dog stocks, and they haven't yet asked, because it was Richard Tice who's looked at the details. But I assume that they will be the ultimate people who will back them up. And you know what I say? Don't give these people a penny, because it's their fault, because they're the ones who passed all the legislation that put us on the road to this net zero. Yeah. They're the ones behind it. They're the ones who are still promoting this idea. Yeah,
they what do they call it? Environmental, social and governance investments. 2 of these environmental, social and government investments, ESG for short, were in companies called Northvolt and Solar Zero. Guess what? They both went bankrupt. Richard Tice, as you say, the Deputy Reform UK leader, has written to the fund's managers complaining and just saying because of this huge swing in favour of ESG, ethical investing, allegedly ethical investing, the serious risk now is that the scheme cannot meet its benchmarks. And then Richard says, as a result, taxpayers will probably be forced to pick up the tab. So because of these virtue signalling sort of politicos in Westminster, we are going to end up with a mammoth bill. They've lost 25% of 862 million quid.
I'm not sure it's that. I think they're 25% off their benchmark, so we don't actually know what the benchmark is. But they are obviously considerable losses rising, yes. And if you couple it with the losses that we've had on the regular stock markets, you're looking at a pension fund that probably is sort of heading deeply underwater.
It is ridiculous. I mean, a kind of madness has descended on virtually everyone about net zero, about greenery. This is the nonsense spewed by the government that, the future, the business future, business prosperity in the future will all revolve around green energy, green projects, net zero, when we can all see that the direction of travel is exactly the opposite. That actually the net zero mania seems to be propelling us to hell in a handcart with our energy bills like rocketing. Ed Miliband is like a sort of Mr. Reverse Barometer. Everything he says, just assume the opposite and you'll be right.
All of these investments are in second-rate companies. They're, windmills. First around in the time of Henry II, who reigned in 1150. these things are, they come and gone. I mean, they'll be digging canals soon and saying that we ought to invest in canals. So they're all second-rate operations. They all rely on heavy subsidies, and it's all very well virtue signaling about net zero, but only a fool would actually put their money in it, in my view. And this is what's happened. Go back to about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. Do you remember the Climate and Nature Bill, this private members bill, where 200 MPs were in favour of, it's difficult to get hold of the figures, but it was more or less, it would have taken out hydrocarbon use out of the modern economy on both the things that we produce here and also import from overseas. It would have reduced within 6 to 10 years the use of hydrocarbon to 10%. Now that would have led to almost immediate social and economic collapse, and that would have 10% of energy would be basically, we'd have to use it all for emergency services, hospitals. I don't know what we would do. I mean, it would just be ridiculous. But 200 of these boobies, including every single member of the Liberal Democrat Party, were in favour of this bill. So if they come to me and you and say, oh, by the way, you've been investing in all these dog shares, these green dog shares, can we have some money? My answer would be, well, it's not very polite on that.
Second word's off. Right. Last point, Chris. Always good to talk to you. By the way, you're a Fulham fan, right? Happy days on Sunday. I was there. It was brilliant. I saw this story the week.
I think it might have a crack at Europe. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, but fingers crossed. Did you see the story about plans for a new wind farm off the coast of Brighton and Bognor Regis? Will involve windmills, turbines as tall as the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah,
this is getting ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, something for all the Greens to look at off Brighton Pier. A nice end of pier show, all the ghastly windmills, not turning, of course, because the last couple of days there hasn't been any wind. Yesterday it was 1%. Anyway, but I'd vaguely seen that story. These windmills are now being built to the size of a mini Shard, or almost as big as the Shard. Some of these are that big. And when you put them in, and it's a serious point, when you put them offshore, you are talking about turning the waters around for miles around into an industrial park, because the amount of concrete, the amount of fixing they need, and the amount of servicing, and the amount of everything, this is what we are going down. We are going to have to build to get to what the Mad Miliband wants. We are going to have to sort of plaster not only onshore, but offshore as well. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see them all over the place, and they are going to be that big. They're going to, and as I said earlier, in the piece we've done, the effect on wildlife is disastrous.
Yeah, bird blenders. That's what Donald Trump calls them, and he's right. Yeah. I mean, they're terrible things, aren't they?
Yeah. We're putting up bat nests on the HS2, aren't we, for the occasional bat that might get chomped, and yet we're quite happy to kill around the world millions of bats a year. Millions.
On the back of these windmills, and not to mention birds, some of them sort of rare and magnificent, huge birds. It's really, really tragic, and it's all mad, and it's not going to work. But what can you do, Chris?
We press on.
Yeah, we press on. What's it the King says? We just keep on buggering on. And we will talk again soon, Chris. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. Chris Morrison there, environment editor of the Daily Sceptic. Imagine that, by the way. The windmills just off the coast of Brighton, the size of the Eiffel Tower. And Chris saying even bigger than that, because the Eiffel Tower is pretty much dwarfed by the Shard. The Shard's just across here from where this studio is. I can see it now. Massive thing. Now, the size of that, this is out of control. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, your calls. So get on the phone. 0344 499 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Just having a drink. Welcome back. Let's go straight to the phones. Let's talk to Chris in Epsom. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Kevin. We've spoken a few times before.
We have. I saw the message here, and I didn't realise. Obviously, you say you're a rape survivor. You raped as a child. Tell us your story.
It's not something I've ever discussed before with anybody, and I'm 64 years old. But I felt that I wanted to tell you where I was coming from, and tell you that even though in aspects of my life, commercially, I've made a success, it's blighted my life all my life. It's not something that you ever get away from. My heart goes out to the father that was on, Marlon, earlier, and to Scarlett and Elizabeth. I hope
Elizabeth, the girl that came.
Yeah, I hope they find the strength to carry on and get through it. I've not had any therapy, as I said. I've never discussed it with anybody. I wanted to tell you where I was coming from, and because we spoke yesterday, actually.
We did, didn't we? Yeah. We were having a laugh yesterday, weren't we? But perhaps not today.
Yeah. The depth of feeling that I have against Jess Phillips and the Labour Party. Jess Phillips does not get a pass for yesterday. That statement was never made by Jess Phillips. That was her reading what she was sent from the head shed. And if she had any decency, if she had a moral bone in her body, would have resigned from the front bench and gone to the back benches. She'd have still kept her job as an MP, but she'd have lost her ministerial post. But that meant more to her than getting... They weren't even doing a national inquiry. They were only doing 5 local inquiries, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Now
nothing. And that's what Elizabeth, that brave girl who spoke to me, the victim of the Rotherham rape gang, she said about Jess Phillips, that like yourself, Chris, that it absolutely enraged her because she could see that Jess Phillips was putting politics above basically common decency. That's what we saw then, wasn't it?
It was, and I've got little things. I've got a request of you actually in a minute. We're calling them rape gangs, which is exactly what they are.
Yeah.
They are not, by any stretch of the imagination, right? Because there's plenty of cases that have been documented and people have been prosecuted and sent to jail for it. And Marlon said, as he said about his daughter's attackers, all right? The only thing they have in common is that they're all Islamic. And the Labour Party are frightened for their seats.
That's exactly it.
They put their party ahead of what is probably the biggest scandal this country has ever seen, or not properly seen, since the Second World War.
Oh, I've been characterising it, Chris, as the worst sexual scandal in British history ever. I mean, we're talking about potentially, they estimate there could be 250,000 victims, all of them vulnerable young white girls, many of them underage, specifically chosen because of their race. These Muslim gangs of male... men of Pakistani origin picked on white girls because they enjoyed it from a racial perspective. Let's not beat about the bush. That was what was going on, and that is what terrifies Labour. They're terrified of that. They're terrified of upsetting the Muslim community, and oh my God, we might lose their vote. For that, they have sacrificed their common human decency.
Yeah, and this is the request I've got for you, Kevin. You talk to your bosses, all right? I went online and dug out the court records and the judges summing up on some of the cases, and it wasn't just rape; it was torture.
Oh no, man! I've seen. I mean, some of the details. I've been around, but I've never seen anything like that. It's just. It's jaw-droppingly horrendous what these poor girls were subjected to. They were literally treated like animals, or worse than animals, and that's what these gangs enjoyed. They enjoyed degrading them, dehumanizing them, treating them like animals, and that is the horrendous nature of this scandal, and that's why it's so, well, you in particular must be furious, but we are all furious that this excuse of a government has called off what the nation deserves, and that is a full public inquiry. As you quite rightly say, Chris, those 5 local inquiries weren't enough. That was a sap, but at least it was something, and now they've called them off. This is outrageous, isn't it?
Basically said to the 5 locals that they were doing, they said to them, well, we've got a pot of money, and if you wish to investigate yourselves that did all those wrongdoings, then we can give you some money. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But what I'm trying to say, Kevin, about talk, you have your website, all right? You can put a warning up, post some of those court records, let people know exactly what went on, because the people assume, oh, it's grooming and rape. It wasn't.
Yeah, that's
rape and torture.
It was torture as well. It was torture. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable what went on. I mean, literally unbelievable. I've never heard anything like it or seen anything like it. And as I say, you know, I'm a journalist of some veteran standing. I've been around. I've seen a lot of bad things, but I've never seen anything as bad as this. It's just absolutely shocking. It's seriously shocking. Well, listen, Chris, well, thank you very much for telling us your story. But as you know, for someone like yourself, just like it was for Elizabeth, I mean, to see what happened yesterday, to see the attitude of Jess Phillips and indeed the rest of her party, I mean, you must be seething.
I am seething. It broke my heart, because I knew immediately how those girls would feel, which is why I started by telling you from the angle I was coming from. Of course.
Because, and I appreciate that, mate. I really do.
I'm 64. I served in the Special Forces. I've been successfully commercially successful, all right, and it has never left me.
Yeah, well, it doesn't, does it? And did you hear Elizabeth say that, you know, she would be now, I suppose, mid-20s, late 20s? And I said, how is your life now? Any sign of a relationship? She said, no, I can't do any of that. I can't. So that's how it... Think about that. She's an intelligent young woman, and her ordeal at the hands of the Rotherham rape gang has ruined her life. You know, she will never have a romance, never get married, never have children, because that's how damaged these poor girls were when this happened. I mean, you know, as I say, it's just absolutely stunningly awful. It really is. Chris, listen, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And it was good to talk. Thank you, mate. Chris in Epsom there. Let's go straight to break.
and Meghan basically felt that they were singled out for inferior treatment, and they had to step.
Firstly, this has happened in 50 towns. So 5 local inquiries is going to potentially give partial answers to 5 of those towns, but what about the other 45? Secondly, local inquiries have no statutory basis, which means they can't compel witnesses and they can't compel evidence. So, of course, if you are a councillor or a councillor...
What's happened is so bad that their reaction is just to sort of deny it themselves. They can't deal with it. It is, it must be the biggest race-based crime in post-war Europe. Probably.
It got to be.
Probably, on the numbers.
Yeah.
It's horrific.
I mean, it's almost like the level, for me, only worse, of a terrorist attack.
It is, yeah. Cumulatively, it's disgusting. And they... So, but things are changing a little bit. Obviously, Rupert Lowe has done a lot of good work on it. There was a brilliant little speech by Katie Lamb.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I want to talk what I would, with two-tier Britain, two-tier politics, two-tier justice, two-tier policing. Just heard about two-tier policing, didn't we, at the West Yorkshire Police, where they're so two-tier that if you're white and British, you're not allowed to apply. You can't be a copper there. You have to be from an ethnic community, a person of colour. White Brits need not apply. So that's pretty damn two-tier, isn't it? Now, let's talk about two-tier religion. Essentially, it seems to me that in this country, you're kind of okay if you're hating on Israel, hating on the Jews, but don't you dare diss Islam. So let's talk to Ralph Hadel-Mantku, the historian and social commentator. Well, welcome, Rafe.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Kevin.
Good to have you on the show. I want to talk, first of all, these are sort of a tale of two stories, really. So these two obscure backbenchers, Labour backbenchers, these two women, who went to Israel and demanded entry to go and spread their pro-Palestinian views. We want to go to the West Coast and protest about awful Israel. Israel saying, well, basically this is Israel, and we sort of thought maybe we won't let you in to do that. So they then fly back to Britain, and the whole of the Labour Party sort of rises in sheer fury, in high dudgeon, hails them as absolute heroes. And I thought, here we go, the Labour Party back in its Corbynista comfort zone, hating on Israel. They're never happier than when they're hating on Israel, are they? So that's one thing. So hate on Israel by all means. Meanwhile, we have the story of this guy, a guy called Hamit Koskan, 50 years old. He went to the Turkish embassy in Knightsbridge in London to stage a protest. And his protest took the form of burning the Quran, the holy Muslim text, religious text. He has been charged with intent to cause against the religious institution of Islam harassment, alarm, or distress. So there it is. I didn't know there was such a law, but if you go out with intent to cause Islam distress, and if you burn the Quran, that is your intention. Just as if I burnt the Bible, it might be my intention to offend and distress Christians, because this is a form of protest. You're allowed to do that. Well, apparently not, because, as I say, he's been charged with an offence I had never heard of, but it is this: intent to cause against the religious institution of Islam harassment, alarm, or distress. Tale of two stories there, isn't it? Like, it's okay to hate on Israel, okay to hate on the Jews, but don't you dare go near Islam. Don't you dare diss Islam. This is two-tier religion, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. I mean, this is a tale of two stories. Both in their own different ways are a case of two-tier religion or two-tier justice. And, one is ridiculous and silly. That's the story of these two ridiculous MPs. The other one is deeply sinister. And we should probably treat both stories a bit separately, although they do deal with the same thing. The one that really is sinister and insidious stuff is the one about the Quran burning. And I would go further. I think it's an outrage against, the principles of the Enlightenment that we hold dear, and actually against, it's an outrage against Western civilization itself, because we're going backwards into a sort of a dark age when we have a de facto blasphemy law with one caveat, because it only applies to one religion, and it's a foreign religion. It's Islam. You can go and see the Book of Mormon. You can go and criticize any religion you want to, but Islam is off limits. And let's be clear here. No one should be arrested or prosecuted for destroying their own property. As long as this man, legally owned this Quran, he has every right to do with it as he sees fit. That's his human right to do so, not least as he was doing as a form of political protest. And you have to ask, what sort of a society have we become when this, really fundamental aspect, not only of human rights, but actually of personal property rights, no longer applies?
Yeah, I should have the right to intend to cause distress to Islam if I want to protest about Islam, just as I should have the right to intend to cause distress to Christianity or Judaism if I want to protest about those religions. Why is this a crime? Where did that come from? It's just a blasphemy law, isn't it?
It's not a crime. This is a blasphemy law by the back door, and we should all be outraged by this. Islam is an ideology. This is not about anti-Muslim hatred, which is about hating Muslim people. This is about attacking and criticizing the religion and the ideology of Islam. And it's an outrage that the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, has come out and tried to obscure the two things, and is trying to cast this as an attack against a person, as they've called it, a person of any religion or racial background. Islam is not a person, it's an ideology. We should be free to mock it, to criticize it, however savage we want to do. That's a cornerstone of our ideology, our British and our Western ideology of free speech. And that brave man is going to go on trial for this outrageous assertion that he's offended the religious institution of Islam. For heaven's sake, British comedy is all about criticizing institutions. Yeah. That's what Monty Python and The Life of Brian was all about. Every Carry On film was about making fun of every institution, from the police to the, to the government and everything else.
Yeah.
And he's being charged for actually shouting profanities about the religion. Excuse me.
So what? So what? That shouldn't be a crime. That shouldn't be a crime. It's unbelievable. You're right. It's a kind of torturous link between these two stories, but I do think there is a kind of theme running through both of them. And these two MPs, what were they called? Yuan Yang and Abtisam Mohammed. They were turned away from Israel on Saturday. They told the Israeli authorities that they were on an official parliamentary mission, and that was a lie. The Israelis had no record of them at all. But why do you think Keir Starmer and all the Labour politicians are standing up? The Foreign Office, by the way, and Downing Street today have accepted that Israel was legally perfectly justified in what it did. So they've railed back a bit. But why do you think Keir Starmer and all the Labour lot are hailing these two people as heroes? It just strikes me there's this indecent haste by the Labourites, the Corbynistas, if you like, to just sort of pile in on Israel as soon as they get the chance.
Well, we know why, and it's for exactly the same reason as you were, I think, discussing before I came on here, the decision to actually back away from inquiries into the grooming gang scandal, and it's because the Labour Party is petrified of losing the Muslim vote. The big story of the last election was the election of these 5 Muslim MPs, and they really are concerned that they aren't going to be able to actually maintain the same sorts of, Angela Rayner, so many front bench MPs, cabinet ministers are hanging on by
their Muslim votes, by the skin of their Muslim vote teeth. Yeah, exactly right.
And they've got egg on their faces now because, they're basically endorsing two-tier justice here because the Foreign Office, as you say, quite clearly lays out what Israel requires. You cannot you cannot call for a boycott of Israel. You cannot call for ministers to be sanctioned. There are clear rules that our Foreign Office states. And for some reason, they want MPs to be judged by a different standard.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, that's two-tier justice. Miss Mohammed has accused Israel of ethnic cleansing, called for a boycott. Miss Yang did the same thing. Imagine in the 80s and 90s, if in Britain there was an rapidly IRA supporting Irish MP who wanted to come to this country.
Exactly, put Rafe, exactly right. Thank you very much. Good to talk to you as always. Let's talk again soon. Next up, Donald Trump.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Welcome back. This is the final hour of a rather special edition of the Political Asylum tonight. We've had some very powerful stories again. We've talked to a victim of the Rotherham rape gang who told her harrowing story and told of her fury about Jess Phillips and Labour calling off all inquiries. Caller Chris from Epsom, a regular caller, decided to reveal that he was raped as a child, and he's never got over it. He's 64 years old. And that is why he is seething, particularly seething. Anybody who's suffered sexual abuse is particularly angry with Labour right now. But I think we all are. We all should be. Because the nation, there's 250,000 victims, the white vulnerable girls, young girls, many of them underage, who were preyed upon and drugged and raped and tortured by these rape gangs, predominantly Muslims, Muslim men of Pakistani origin. They deserve an inquiry. The nation deserves an inquiry. People like Chris deserve an inquiry. What is going on? 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about that when I take your calls in about 20 minutes. Also, don't forget we've got the two-tier policing system in West Yorkshire Police, where if you're white and British, don't apply because they won't give you the job. They're only hiring people from ethnic communities, people of colour right now. Whites, need not apply. It's racist, isn't it? 03444991000. What about the council that cancelled the VE Day celebratory march, the parade, the VE Day 80th anniversary parade, because it was too elitist? What about that? 03444991000. Now, let's get back to business. Let's talk about Donald Trump. It's all been happening, actually, since this show started. He's just cancelled all the tariffs, apart from, I think he's increased the one on China, which is now on about 104%. So the tariff war with China continues apace, but all the other tariffs is just cancelled. Stock markets are soaring all over the world. All's well with the world. It's coming over more and more like another triumph for this amazing man, Donald Trump. Now, my next guest, he's been on the show many times before, and it's always a pleasure to have him on board. He's written a brilliant new book. It's called The Greatest Comeback Ever: Inside Trump's Big Beautiful Campaign. It is the story of how, of course, in the last election campaign, that Donald Trump showed Kamala Harris a clean pair of heels. A warm welcome to author and Fox News star correspondent Joe Concha. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Kevin, long time no see. Great to see you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. Well, your book is going great guns. Great to see that. But it just so happens we booked you before Donald announced the end of the tariffs. Before we get to your book, what do you make of that?
Well, I think this is a masterstroke by the president. He did exactly what you would expect a great negotiator to do. He got 70 countries to come forward and say, we're ready to make a better deal. That includes the European Union. That includes Japan. That includes India or Israel or Vietnam. I can't go through all 70 countries. We've got finite time here. And they said, okay, I know who's willing to work with me. I know who's willing to go down to zero tariffs for zero tariffs. And if that happens, then that's great for everybody. That's more free trade. He saw China then retaliate to the tune of, okay, we're going to up your tariffs 34%, then 84%. So he knows now that they are not shown to be good actors here, but bad actors. What's going to happen here now over these next 90 days with these tariffs now off as far as a negotiation period, if Donald Trump can get all these countries to sign better trade deals that benefits everybody, then as a group, Europe and India and the United States and Japan can go to China and say, look, guys, all right, we're all doing this. You need to, too, because at this point, for China, they are, look, time's not their friend. Every U.S. company that sources products in China, they're going to find alternative suppliers. And if China can't export its goods, they're in a lot of trouble. So I think at this point, you see the stock market up more than something like 2,300 points today. The Dow Jones anyway, NASDAQ 2, S&P 2, as you said, world markets reacting kindly. Anything that was lost last Thursday and Friday will be gained back and then some, and in the end, everybody gets better trade deals. So all I know is this. Democrats who are complaining about this, who are saying that Donald Trump's wrecking the economy, never even talked about trade until last week. And if Trump could pull this off, and the U.S. economy and the U.K. economy and the European Union in general, if it raises all boats, then Democrats in this country are going to have a hard time ever selling that they know what they're doing with the economy again.
What I love about what's happened literally in the last couple of hours is, with Donald Trump, time and time again, you go, what is he up to? What is he playing at? And you never quite know. I think we just found out. We just found out what his game plan was. And frankly, it's been a masterstroke.
It has. And you go back, and I found one interview he did with Oprah Winfrey, something like 35 years ago, where he was talking about how the United States was getting screwed by bad trade deals where we protect and defend places like France or Japan or Germany or South Korea. And what do? They turn around and they slap these huge tariffs on our products. He's been saying this for decades. So this isn't any sort of surprise. And this is what he ran on. And what I know is that auto workers here and steel workers here and farmers here are all behind the president. So while Wall Street doesn't like it very much, they like it today, Main Street and the folks that used to be Democratic voters in those swing states, particularly in the Rust Belt, all those union members, rank and file members of the Teamsters and the United Auto Workers and steel workers and restaurant workers, they're all now in Trump's camp. And what do Democrats have left at this point? That's the question, because their coalition continues to shrink. So, yeah, Donald Trump, he's unpredictable, and that's what makes him effective, because you never, to your point, Kevin, you don't know quite what he's going to do or how far he's willing to go. Here he walked up to the precipice, then he pulled back with his friends and told China, screw you, we're going to raise your tariffs even more. I mean, this is somebody who has brass, can I say it on your air?
Yeah, balls. Yeah, that's
really
fine.
Big ones when it comes to negotiations.
Also, you know, screw China. I mean, I'm glad he's having a war with China. It's about time somebody stood up to that lot.
Yeah.
And also, even before this sort of bombshell announcement a couple of hours ago that has completely changed the dial, in America, rank and file Americans were loving Trump. His popularity ratings were soaring. And I think it's this, Joe. You know, people like you and me and journalists and, you know, the politicians, we're all talking about stock exchange and shares and all this kind of stuff. Most people don't own shares. Most people just think about their jobs, what money they're earning, keeping a roof over their head. And as far as they could see, millions of Americans could see, this was a president who was putting America first, who was protecting their interests. And screw what all the highfalutin media elites were saying, they were very happy with him. Even before this announcement, I would say millions of Americans right now will be thrilled with their president.
Yeah, Kevin, I hosted a couple of radio shows last week in Washington, D.C., and I put out the question, if you're a Trump supporter and you voted for him in 2016, 2020, 2024, are you nervous right now? Do you have buyer's remorse right now? Or are you willing to trust him given his economic record, especially on tariffs and trade? And are you willing to stick this out while you watch your 401k come down? And every single call I got said, I trust the guy, I'm gonna hold out, and I know that he's doing the right thing ultimately in the long run. And the point I would make was, if you looked at the stock market in 2017, when Donald Trump first took office in his first term, so that's 8 years ago, it was trading, the Dow Jones was, at 19,000 points. It's now above 40,000 points. In other words, even with this drop over those 2 days where we lost 2,500 in the stock market and 1,600, if you look at the overall picture, it's still doubled in the last 8 years. Since 2005, the stock market here in the United States has quadrupled from 10,000 to 40,000. If you invest and you're dumb enough to pull out your money because of a bad day or two, especially when you've been investing for years, well, that's on you. And so Donald Trump was playing the long game here, not the short game, and Wall Street doesn't like it, and the big banks and billionaires don't like it, but regular folks, to your point, Kevin, absolutely love this. They knew that he would do the right thing. Let's see what trade deals we get out of this, of course. You know, there's still an asterisk next to it, but this is all going in the right direction, it appears.
It's fascinating times. Well, let's talk about your excellent book, Joe, The Greatest Comeback Ever, Inside Trump's Big, Beautiful Campaign. I've got a lot of American friends, used to live over there, and I always said from a very early stage in the campaign, I always said, I don't think Trump is just going to win. I said, I think he's going to walk it. And even the most Democrat-hating American friends of mine said, oh, no, it's going to be very, very close. Why do you think in the end, Joe, it wasn't close? Why do you think he absolutely trounced Kamala Harris? I mean, obviously, we'll take on board that Kamala Harris is one of the most useless women who ever lived. But seriously, why such an emphatic victory?
Because of authenticity, I think, in the end, Kevin, that you know what you're getting with Donald Trump. You may not agree with everything that he says, but you know you're getting somebody who means what he says. Kamala Harris just was a weather vane candidate, would say whatever she thought she had to get elected with. So when she said, oh, you know, actually, I'm for fossil fuels, I'm for offshore drilling, I actually think that illegal immigration is a bad thing. Yeah, all those things that she was for in 2019 when she first ran for president, because she had to go to the left because she won the nomination, she reversed course on basically everything. And, you know, then she comes out with, yeah, I don't think that we should have a tax on tips either, like 4 days after Donald Trump says it. And you're like, all right, this is somebody who's just saying anything to get elected. Donald Trump obviously has been very consistent throughout his career. And think about everything, Kevin, that was thrown at him, all right? Lawfare, 91 felony counts, 4 different trials going on, obviously in places where the jury is going to be manipulated because it's mostly in liberal places like Washington, D.C. or New York City. Then you have all these judges as well who clearly were activists and not acting as fair judicial bench members. And then you think about the fact that he was nearly assassinated twice. You think about the fact that in the United States, there is a hostile media towards him always. And then you think about all the love that Kamala Harris got when she was installed literally as a candidate, didn't receive 1 vote. He overcomes all of that. And I said in October, 2 weeks before the election, he's going to win every swing state. This is not going to be close because, to your point, Kamala Harris, bad candidate, no message, and people were nostalgic for Donald Trump's first term because they saw how good we had it as far as peace and prosperity up until COVID. And that's why he won in the end. He had a track record, he was trusted, and right now, if he, again, achieves these trade deals like we think he may, I don't see how any Democrat gets elected nationally for quite some time here if J.D. Vance is the nominee and carries on the Trump torch.
Yeah, I was saying that the other day. The great thing about J.D. Vance is he's the first vice president of the United States of America that anybody ever noticed. So he's right there. And if Donald carries on like this, he's the next president. So we've got a kind of Republican dynasty going on here. But to go back to Trump's success, I don't know if you noticed, was it last week, Marine Le Pen, clearly the victim of lawfare in France. Now, interestingly, in France now, people who don't like Le Pen, who naturally wouldn't vote for her, are rallying to her cause because they think she is the victim of unfair political tactics. Why didn't the Democrats realise that their blatant lawfare, their blatant bid to darken and blacken Donald Trump's name for political purposes was so obvious that Americans would rail against it? Why didn't they know that?
Kevin, I honestly think they watch too much CNN, MSNBC here in the States, far left liberal outlets. They read the New York Times and Washington Post, obviously. Let's put it this way. The New York Times hasn't endorsed a Republican presidential candidate since 1956, Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Washington Post, in its history, has never endorsed a Republican presidential candidate. The reason why I bring all this up is that they would read the headlines and they saw lawfare and they thought it was being effective with the American people, like, wow, we can't have a convicted felon as our president. But then regular people, if you speak to them on the ground, would say, well, I don't even understand what these charges are. It does not seem to be a big deal. For instance, like the documents case where Joe Biden literally kept classified documents next to his Corvette, and Hillary Clinton did the same thing in 2016. So people kind of shrugged their shoulders at that. And then they saw Democrats even take it to the point where in Colorado and Maine, 2 U.S. states, where they tried to take him off the ballot. And they were successful for a bit until higher courts stepped in. But that's the same thing with Le Pen, right? She can't run for office now because the courts say she can't, or the government says that she can't. And people say that and they say, all right, maybe I don't like Marine Le Pen, but I, at the same time, would rather decide that at the ballot box than by a judge and jury or some sort of government official saying that she can't run. A lot of people are against that, and that's what made Donald Trump, in the end, lawfare helped him because it made the exact point that he'd always had made, is that the weaponization of the justice system is wrong. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, and people rallied around him as a result.
OK, I'm going to say this through gritted teeth. The Democrat Party is a noble party with a long and impressive history. How did they sink so low? How did they end up with a sort of geriatric, senile guy running the show, a kind of semi-half-wit as his vice president who was vaulted in to be the presidential candidate? Their campaign was beyond farcically bad. That guy, Tim Walz, I mean, what were they thinking? Why was that? How did they sink so low? How did their campaign become quite so atrocious? How did they ever think Kamala Harris was a good candidate? Well, what happened with the Democrats, and can they ever recover?
Again, Kevin, I think they read their own headlines. In July and August of 2024, as we outline in the book, we heard about the Summer of Joy and Brat Summer, and Kamala Harris is bringing joy back to the campaign, and Tim Walz, boy, what a fun guy. And then you realize that, no, actually, he's kind of like a goofy 1980s sitcom dad and looks like the least cultured guy at a bus station and just was profoundly horrible in interviews.
Somebody said, Joe, that he looks like an ugly version of Frasier.
Yeah, you're right. Like an overweight Fraser. I never really looked at it that way before. Yeah, great point. But yeah, I mean, the fact that this guy lied about holding weapons of war, said that he was in Tiananmen Square when he was in a cornfield in Nebraska, got married on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre because he wanted a date that he and his wife can remember easily. What? I mean, I could go on and on as far as he was the worst choice ever. I mean, Kamala Harris had Josh Shapiro, a popular Pennsylvania governor in a state she needed, right out there. And she instead said, you know, Tim Walz seems pretty popular on social media with his barbs against Trump, so I guess I'll take him. Oh, not a good idea. The Democratic Party overall was listening to their donors in big cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and not to regular folks in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Ohio, and Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. They became the party of elites, unfortunately, the party of censorship. Yeah. Pro-war party. These are all the things that Democrats used to not be, right? They used to be the party for the little man and the working man and woman, and now, no, they're the party for the richest 1%. They basically become Republicans, and Republicans have become populists. The world's upside down.
Indeed it is. And don't forget, the Labour Party, the Democrat equivalent over here, also become the party of the metropolitan elites. Unfortunately, they won the election, so we'll have to put up with that for another 4 dreadful years. So is your book out over here as well, Joe?
Oh yeah, so you can get it on Amazon. I'm not. It's not in a bookshelf per se.
Yes, of course, it's Amazon. Of course, I should have said.
Yeah,
we're living in
Amazon,
a global.
Barnes and Noble, wherever you need it. It wrote itself. It really did. I'll leave it here because I know you got to go. Think about between June 27th and July 21st. What happened last year? Let's see. Joe Biden has a horrible debate. Then Donald Trump is nearly assassinated. Then he chooses J.D. Vance as his running mate. Then Joe Biden drops out. In the span of 24 days, all of this happened. That's why this book just wrote itself. I barely had to type, Kevin. It was awesome.
That's great. I was going to say that since your book is out on Amazon, I forgot it's a globalist world. But then again, no, it's not anymore.
Right.
Joe, fantastic to talk to you. Don't be a stranger. Come on again very soon. Joe Concha, the excellent Fox News correspondent. He's got a new book out now. I heartily recommend it because you can see what a talker and what an intelligent guy he is, and he knows all about the American political scene. His book is Joe Concha, The Greatest Comeback Ever, Inside Trump's Big Beautiful Campaign. Go and get it and have a read. Next up, your calls, your messages, your phone, WhatsApp voice notes, all that and so much more. So let's talk after this break.
He and Meghan basically felt that they were singled out for inferior treatment, and they had to step back as working royals.
Well, I think what his barrister has said is complete and utter poppycock, to be perfectly honest. Look, Harry was the one who made the decision that he wanted to go and live in America and make his own money. Yep. Absolutely fine. No problems whatsoever.
Yep.
Whatever's happened under the bridge and everything else, whatever. He cannot expect to have a gun bodyguard on standby just in case he decides to turn up here again.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Here's a message from Dorothy in East Kilbride. She says, Kevin, the rape gang is the biggest scandal ever to happen in Britain, in my opinion. It's a good opinion, Dorothy. It's certainly the worst sexual scandal ever to happen in this country. But yes, one of the worst scandals ever. 250,000 victims, young white girls, many of them underage, systematically tortured and raped by Muslim Pakistani rape gangs. Absolute disgrace. Dorothy goes on to say, why is this not this national scandal? Why does it not deserve a national inquiry? It does. As for the blatantly racist police recruitment, that's in West Yorkshire, I suspect the majority of the country will be outraged. I am totally disgusted. So am I, Dorothy, and so many other people. Yeah, David makes a good point. Makes a very good point. Should have made it ourselves. About West Yorkshire Police, you know, they're not actually advertised. Well, they sort of are. If you go onto the website, it basically says, no whites, thanks very much. We'll just have people from ethnic communities, people of colour. Doesn't use those precise words, but it does in effect say whites need not apply. David says, I wonder what would happen if a job vacancy for the police stated whites only. It's true, isn't it? If they started saying, why, you know, we've got too many ethnic minorities in the police force, so we'll have to have a whites-only policy for a while. So we'll have to make sure that only white people can apply to be policemen in West Yorkshire. Imagine how that would go down. I wonder if the West Yorkshire top cops who run that ridiculous constabulary would be just as proud of their whites-only policy than their blacks-only policy that they got right now. Wonder what they think about that. Good point, David. Very good point. 03444991000. Let's go to the phones and talk to Pauline in Peckham in London. Hello, Pauline.
Good evening to you. Can you hear me properly?
Not really.
Can you hear me now?
What are you? Where are you talking? Are you talking across the room or something?
No, I'm not. Just bear with me 1 moment. Let me see if I can adjust.
That's better.
Is that better?
That's better. Now talk. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So I do apologise in advance because I'm sure that everything I have to say has been said already. But I would just like to say that I just think the whole premise is completely wrong. I mean, all this...
The Yorkshire Police, it's ridiculous.
Recruitment. Sorry?
The West Yorkshire Police. I think it's racist.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I mean, there should be equality of justice in the law. And that's not about that. And I think in the light of the Pakistani rape gangs and everything that is, you know, so extremely raw and unjust at the moment, I mean, this is just doubly inflammatory. You know, the reason that they're giving for, you know, giving discriminatory kind of, you know, preferment to minorities. I mean, if you just take Bradford, for example, you know, the figures for 2021, the Pakistani population was 25.5%. Now, we've had mass immigration since then. I don't know what the figures are in 25. But, I mean, there's been no... And I'm not anti-Muslim. I've got many Muslim friends. It's not about people or individuals. But there has been no, you know, support from the Muslim community over what has, you know, been happening.
That's a very good point,
And if we're going to start recruiting even more from the ethnic minorities, who's going to stand up for the children? Well, you know, no one's standing up for them now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be fair, it's not just members of the Muslim community who aren't coming to the support of the victims of the rape gang scandal. It is all sections of society. The main people who aren't coming to the support of the poor rape gang victims are called Labour politicians. They're the main people who have betrayed those victims by denying them any form of inquiry whatsoever. They deserve an inquiry. You deserve an inquiry. I deserve an inquiry. This nation deserves an inquiry into the worst sexual scandal in British history. The fact that Labour have called this off is an absolute disgrace.
It is, but as many people and yourself has also covered earlier, the reason, majoritatively for that, has been the fact that they have not wanted to upset the Muslim vote.
No, exactly. They want the Muslim vote, and that makes it all the more worse, because this should not be a political issue, and yet Labour have played dreadful politics with it, to the extent that even yesterday they tried to slip it in under the carpet with just 45 minutes to go before the parliamentary recess, before our MPs went off on yet another of their thoroughly undeserved holidays that they seem to have a lot of. So the chamber was half empty. They're trying to slip it in without anyone noticing. They didn't get away with that. But playing politics with this is disgusting, and putting politics above human decency, which is what Jess Phillips and the gang have done. Again, as I say, a national disgrace. Pauline, I'm glad we fixed your line. It was good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Very nice conversation. Please call me again. Pauline in Peckham. I think we've got time. Let's go to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie. You want to talk about those Lib Dem morons in Decorum?
Yeah, I'd like to quickly on that one. I'd also like to come back to the raping game.
Yeah, whatever you want to talk about, mate. Carry on.
Now, the Lib Dems are completely out of control to allow such a thing to happen. I know it's not going to take place now, but to even think about it.
Exactly, Herbie. That they even... Don't forget, this was a definite decision. Something happened today. Obviously, a massive backlash. People were furious. I suspect the Lib Dem leader, Ed Davey, got involved as well. But whatever happened, these Lib Dem idiots decided that they've made a mistake, and they're going to have this parade after all. But as you say, the fact that they decided it was all too elitist and they get rid of it. Let's forget, no longer respect the heroes who laid down their lives for their country. The fact that they decided that, I mean, they need help.
They're disgusting, I think. The other thing is, Kevin, is that, can I say, I'm a man of colour. I'm a white man. Have you got a problem, sir?
Have I got a problem?
I'm a man of colour. I'm white. So what's your problem?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Hey? Oh, come on, Kevin. For God's sake, what is going on? But what I'd like to say, because I tried to speak to Julie this morning, but I didn't get through.
Right.
These raping games, I think it's a disgrace for the government to cancel such an important issue as this. Can you please tell me, what if the boot was on the other foot and it was us raping and
Labour would be all over us. Labour, if it was white people raping Muslim girls, let me tell you, Labour would be all over it, because this is all about the Muslim vote. Again, you know, we're not having a go at the Muslim community. You know, most Muslims are decent people like the rest of us, but there were these rape gangs, rather worryingly too many of them, who it looks as if subjected to as many as 250,000 vulnerable young white girls, many of them underage, to systematic torture and rape. And this shouldn't be a question of politics, but Labour are playing politics with it. They played politics with it yesterday when they tried to get it through Parliament without us noticing that they weren't going to have any inquiries after all. And they're playing politics with it all the time because they don't want to upset the Muslim community, because they want the Muslim vote. And if you want to play politics with an issue like this, then I really think you should take a long, hard look in the mirror. And I include Jess Phillips in that suggestion.
Well, Kevin, the problem is that if this is their game, they're playing a very, very dodgy game as far as I'm concerned, because the people won't stand for this.
I agree with you, Toby. I think they've gone too far. Far
too far. The problem is, Kevin, we're living in a society that's becoming very unruly and seem to be no law-abiding things going on whatsoever. Do what you like and you've got to get away, because it's important that I keep you happy so that you will vote for me.
Yeah.
That's the wrong attitude.
course
The
it is.
attitude is we want law and order. We want to live in a country that's safe, secure, not only for yourselves but for your children. I've got a granddaughter. Believe you me, I fear for her future. I really do, Kevin.
I would too, Herbie. I would too. Something going badly wrong with this country. Labour playing politics with the rape gang scandal. Lib Dems in decorum in Hertfordshire cancelling the VE Day parade. I mean, come on, give me a break. What is going wrong? Something is going badly wrong in this country. Herbie, great call as always. Good to talk to you. Thanks very much. Let's talk again soon. Herbie in Harrow there. Let's go to break. More of your calls, more of your messages after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side.
Welcome back. We're taking your calls. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp messages. We'll play those out if we do. Let's read something here. Yes. Hang on. Oh, yeah. This is from Matt. He says colour-coded policing. This is when people apply to the West Yorkshire Police. You're given a gold colour or a silver colour. These are all people of ethnic backgrounds. And then bronze. Rubbish, bronzy. They're white people. They can go away. They're not going to get the job. They're not going to be given the chance to get the job. Anyway, so Matt says colour-coded policing is just more two-tier policing. You will end up with Sharia-compliant policing in Bradford and more white girls sacrificed to DEI. It's a very bleak dystopian picture, Matt, but I don't think you're far off the money there. It's getting terrible. Something's wrong with this country. Let's go back to the phones and talk to Jason in Sheffield. Hi, Jason.
All right, Kev, how you doing, mate?
I'm not bad. Yeah, good. What would you like to say?
Hey, I've got a bit of skin in the game here because I come from, obviously, well, like you just said, Sheffield.
Sheffield, yeah, you're right in the heart of it, yeah.
Yeah. And I've got kids and grandchildren all over the place, right? Now, what I think's happening here is that the Labour government, there's a lot of Labour councillors have are running these councils.
Yeah, well, this is half the problem, Jason. One of the problems here is there are two reasons that the Labour government, don't want inquiries into the rape gang scandal, either national or local. One is They don't want to upset the Muslim community because they want the Muslim vote. And that in itself is disgusting. What a disgusting attitude to take. And the other reason is that a lot of the areas where these rape gangs were operating, where this scandal unfolded, were in areas run by Labour authorities. So they stand accused of allowing this to happen. You see what's going on?
Yeah, well, the thing is, how many Labour MPs in Parliament now were Labour councillors?
Well, yeah, you see, there may be that as well. A lot of them were, they come up through the ranks of Labour councillors, then they become MPs.
Yeah, you go from Labour councillor to...
Yeah, so that you're right. There are all sorts of levels of potential embarrassment for the Labour Party in the prospect of a proper inquiry, and we should have. And that's why they won't have one. That's why they won't.
Can I just put one more point in?
Go on,
Sorry,
quickly,
Kev.
Jason. Quickly, yeah. Go on, mate.
Yeah, this amusement park thing.
Oh God, that thing. Yeah.
That's a dead cat.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever happen. Yeah, it's a dead cat anyway.
It won't never happen. It will never happen.
You think about it, Jason. All that's going on, I couldn't even be bothered to mention it tonight.
It's dead cat, isn't it?
Yeah. All the things that are going on in this country, all the scandals, the complete mess, the shambles of it all, the migrant crisis, the cost of living crisis, the two-tier policing and justice crisis, and so on and so forth. What does Labour do? Hey! We got a new fun fair for you. Thanks very much, Keir. Jason, good call. Thank you very much. Got to move on, but nice call. Call me again. Jason in Sheffield there. Let's go to the WhatsApp voice note. This is Curtis, and he wants to talk about police diversity.
Hi Kevin, I think it's an absolute appalling that the jobs are being given to people from ethnic minorities. Surely they should be given to a person who's good at the job and more effective at the job rather than judging it on the colour of their skin. Because then you're just going to have a lot of police officers that can't do the job properly, but they were given the job just to meet quotas, etc., that the government's probably given them. Surely this is discrimination against white people, is it not?
It is, Curtis, and you're exactly right. It's what I said. The process of recruiting police officers should be just the pursuit of excellence. You want the best candidates to do the job. This is about policing this country, keeping the streets safe, solving serious crimes, keeping people safe. It's a very important job. You want the best people to do it, regardless of creed, colour or class or race. I mean, come on. It's obvious. And yet, West Yorkshire Police, no. If you're not a person of colour, if you're not ethnic, don't get in touch. We won't give you a job. Yeah, oh no, we don't. No whites. Well, that's ridiculous. That means that they're not getting the best candidates because they're cutting out a whole huge section of society. The majority, as a matter of fact. But hey ho, welcome to West Yorkshire. One more WhatsApp voice note on the grooming gangs from Sharon.
Hi, Kevin. Every day I become increasingly aghast and sickened by the actions of this government. Now the rape gang crisis, covering up the most abhorrent, unspeakable crimes towards our young children and enabled by the very state officials responsible for their protection. There is something very rotten at this government's core, protecting the criminals with no sense of duty to their victims. Only with a national inquiry, mass prison sentences, deportations and revocations of citizenships can the victims start to heal and the government save some face and hold on to a shred of credibility.
I like you, Sharon. Give me a call sometime. That was good, Sharon there. Sharon, the number's 03444991000. Call me anytime. Let's go back to the phones. It's my friend Mark from Watford. But I believe, hello, Mark. I believe you live in the Dacorum area, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So you got in touch with me earlier and let me know that you were less than happy with the cancellation of the VE Day celebrations. What a disgrace, eh?
Well, they've backtracked, obviously, which shows just how stupid the original decision was. Climate and economical emergency is her job title.
Was that what that woman who did it, who said it, yeah?
Yeah, given which part of the decorum region she covers mainly, I'm not surprised. Very affluent and very...
So this is a sort of middle-class Guardian reading kind of a decision, isn't it? Hang on, mate. You've gone very quiet. Hello? Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
I don't know what happened there. We lost you. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
You've done it again? What's happening with your phone? Hello?
Is that better?
Yeah, that's a bit better, yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right, you faded away. But, I mean, it's a middle-class Guardian reading type decision, isn't it? It's the destruction of our history, the destruction of our traditions.
Yeah, and many people are very annoyed about it, especially in the light of the fact that 5 years ago, everything was cancelled because of lockdown.
Yeah, exactly right, because that was the 75th anniversary. That was a very important anniversary as well. But we couldn't really mark that occasion. So this time, the VE Day 80th anniversary parades are that much more important because they may be the last ones. There won't be very many heroes from the Second World War left. So it's very important that it happens. They've seen sense. But I still think they should be eternally condemned for deciding this in the first place. They've only changed their minds because everybody's so furious. And as I say, I suspect that the Lib Dem leader, idiot that he is, that buffoon Ed Davey, has got in touch and said, look, this isn't very good for the party. If he did do that, it would be one of his rare wise moments because it isn't good for the party. Mark, good to talk, mate. Thanks for getting in touch. Keep on tweeting. Before we go to break, let's just quickly play Carl. What's that voice note on the grooming gangs?
Hi Kevin, I cannot believe it. I'm absolutely disgusted. What's going on? The government dropped any inquiries, which let's be honest, the inquiries that they were doing were inadequate anyway, but they've dropped the inadequate inquiries. The most disgusting thing I've seen for years from any government. Hundreds of thousands of children abused, and they've basically shoved it under the carpet. And then the next day, Keir Starmer, all he wants to talk about is some theme park that they're building in Bedfordshire. All he's interested in is roller coasters and rides to try and grab some votes from the younger voters. It's absolutely disgusting. And the sooner this government's gone, the better.
It really is. There's a really good point by Carl there. Yeah, in the wake of this disgusting decision to shelve, to axe any inquiries into the worst sexual scandal this country has ever seen. One day later, Keir Starmer, we're going to build you a fun fair, fixing the foundations of the fun fair. I mean, I don't care about your super... You said something. I don't care about your fun fair, put it that way. Family show, Kev. Keep yourself in control. Let's go to break. When we come back, more calls, more WhatsApp voice notes. Stay where you are.
He and Meghan basically felt that they were singled out for inferior treatment and they had to step back as working royals.
Well, I think what his barrister has said is complete and utter poppycock. To be perfectly honest, look, Harry was the one who made the decision that he wanted to go and live in America and make his own money. Absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever. Whatever's happened under the bridge and everything else, whatever. He cannot expect to have a gun bodyguard on standby just in case he decides to turn up here again.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A couple more calls, and then Petri Huskin will be in to tell you what she's got lined up for you from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. So she'll be in just a little while. A couple of messages before we go back to the phones and the WhatsApp and the voice notes. This is from Deborah T, and she says, "Oh my God, I am fuming, Kev, at this police story. We are paying towards this absolute madness through our council tax and our tax, actually. For God's sake, whatever happened to being intelligent and right for the job? Not just the correct colour, which in itself is racist, isn't it? Fuming." Debbie from Wakefield, West bloody Yorkshire. She's in West bloody Yorkshire. Take your point, Debbie, with you all the way. This is from Shaz. Makes a very good point. What is this country coming to? Everyone, no matter what colour of their skin, should have a chance to be a police officer. It is disgusting that they are only taking on ethnic people and not white people. It is racist. Couldn't agree with you more, Shaz. Quick voice note, WhatsApp voice note. This is Dave again on the grooming gangs.
Today's grooming gang news has sickened me more and more the more I hear the reports that you guys are putting out on things. And then when the 5 million is available for people to appeal for or to, to tender for, whatever, are these people getting paid again to cover it up?
God knows, Dave. God knows. Great voice note, though. And Dave there, I think, reflecting the fury that so many people are feeling. Jeremy Kyle was making this point earlier, and I agree with him. He said this may be the straw that broke the camel's back for Labour. I don't think they're going to get away with this. I mean, people are furious. It's the poor girls. 250,000 of them possibly estimated to be victims, tortured, raped, treated like animals, given drugs, drink, raped, assaulted, by Muslim men of Pakistani origin, horrific gangs. Some of them have been punished, some of them haven't. Many of them haven't. And we heard Elizabeth earlier. Remember Elizabeth, the brave girl who spoke to us? She was a victim of the Rotherham gang, saying when she goes into town, she just regularly rubs shoulders with in the shops and the streets with the men who raped her. What kind of a life is that? Why aren't they in jail? The Pakistani nationals, what are they still doing here? I mean, unbelievable. Of course, a lot of them are British, so you can't deport them. But poor Elizabeth, poor girl, all the girls who have to rub shoulders. We heard these stories before, where these girls who were the victims of these rape gangs regularly see their torturers, their rapers, in the streets, in the shops, around town. I mean, this is sick. This is a sick image, is it not? Unbelievable. One last WhatsApp voice note. This is from Caroline, and as I was saying, Elizabeth spoke bravely to her. She's a victim of the Rotherham rape gang, and Caroline is responding to Elizabeth. Take it away, Caroline.
I can't believe, I haven't got words, actually. I haven't got words. It's every day there's something else, but this is the most heinous thing that I think's virtually ever happened in the United Kingdom's history. And the reason why I think they're not bringing them to account is because it's more than just the people involved. I think it's people much higher up, who are involved.
I think that's a good point, Caroline. As I say, a lot of Labour authorities turned a blind eye when this was going on in their areas. There may be a lot of senior officials all around the country who know that they're responsible for some of this, and therefore they don't want inquiries either. Maybe it's a kind of a cover-up going on, but I think mainly Labour, they don't want any of that. It's humiliating for them, it's embarrassing for them. It may plunge some of them into terrible situations where they're going to be brought to justice. So all of that, but mainly I think it's because Labour want to covet the Muslim vote. They don't want to upset the Islamic community because they want the Muslim vote, and that is disgusting. Playing politics with this. There are 250,000 girls out there who deserve so much more from this government that's prancing around today announcing fun fairs. Give me a break. Give me a break. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Alan in St Albans in Hertfordshire. Hello, Alan.
Hello there, Kev. How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate.
Well, really, I'm ringing up about Jess Phillips. Prior to yesterday, I think she had pretty well a certain amount of respect across the board, really. But yesterday, she lost all credibility in that 15 minutes in the Commons. Right, I don't think I think she just actually finished herself theoretically. At the moment, I think she's finished herself politically.
Yeah.
Right, she struggled the last time. Right, in the last election. Right, her majority was really slashed, and people will not forget this.
Yeah, she was playing politics. You know, how do you ruin a decent politician? Make them a minister and put them in the cabinet. Then they have to start towing the government line, which is what Jess Phillips did.
You're quite right, really. I mean, if she had any credibility, she should have just turned around and let Cooper do her dirty work.
Well, she needs to. I think she should resign. If she wants to restore her reputation for being a decent woman who did campaign for women's safety, safeguarding and all that. If she wants to restore her reputation, she needs to resign because she lost everything yesterday. She lost everything.
Onto the back benches.
Yeah.
At least she would actually keep some of her credibility.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to resign. She's now a career politician.
No, I don't think so.
As I say, unless she does resign, as I say, she can go to hell. Shame on her. Alan, got to move on, but good call. Thank you very much. Please call me again. Alan there in St Albans. Lastly, let's go, not very far away, to London to talk to Jackie. Hello, Jackie. What would you like to say?
Hello, Kevin. Yes, I'd like to say about this grooming gang inquiry that's not going to happen now.
Yep.
I feel it so much for these young girls.
Yep.
Our babies of our country that have been treated with disrespect by these grooming gangs, and more so by our government.
Yeah. By the way, Jackie, let's not forget that these grooming gangs, apart from being monsters, were also racists. They made a big thing. They told many of their victims it's because you're white. They enjoyed degrading young white girls. It was a racial issue, and that is, even more disgusting than everything else.
Yeah, but please, Kevin, I'd also like to say, with Easter being cancelled, VE Day's been cancelled.
I know.
These grooming gangs been given a free pass. Our government are inciting riots on our street.
Well, I think people are getting...
What can we do? We can't keep sitting back and taking it because nobody is going to protect ourselves.
Well, I think I agree with you, Jackie, that there's an increasing feeling of frustration. More and more people sort of fearing that there may be civil unrest if they carry on like this for much longer. I don't want to see that, but I would like to see, shall we say, peaceful pressure by the people and for Labour to finally see that they must have an inquiry into the grooming gang scandal, to the rape gang scandal. They must do this. But at the moment, as you say, they're not doing it, and that in itself is a disgrace. But point taken, Jackie. Thank you for an excellent call. Please call me again. Got to move on. It's nearly the end of the show. And the reason I know it's nearly the end of the show is that Petri Hoskin has come into the studio. Here she is.
That's how you know what's going on. Here I am. Well, the story that I have been most fascinated with this week, and so I decided I would do it tonight, is de-extinction.
Oh, yeah, the wolves.
The dire wolves. Now, I am going to be speaking to the Chief Animal Officer at Colossal Labs, and it was Colossal Labs that did this.
Yeah.
So we've got him, and I'm going to be talking to him about what they did, how they did it, and why they did it.
It's 99% wolf, 1% dire wolf.
Yeah, but I want to talk to you about that because what this represents actually is something that could be quite dangerous. So I want to know if just